pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order! Ho! Color bearers. Post, colors, post. Prepare to post colors. Ready. Post. Present. Order. Ho! Move. I want. Ready.
Thank you very much. May I please have roll call?
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Goodman. Councilmember Coleman.
Here.
Councilman McCaskey.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Montoya.
Here.
Councilmember Nizam. Councilmember Phillips. Councilmember Vigil. Councilman Ziegelbaum.
Here.
Quorum is present, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item 4 is approval of the agenda. Mr. Coder, are there any staff changes to the agenda this evening?
No, Your Honor, no changes from staff tonight.
Council, any changes you would like to see to the agenda? All right, hearing none, can I get a motion to approve? Has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Council, please cast your votes. Motion passed unanimously, Your Honor.
Thank you. Item 5 is presentations. Item 5A to 5F are resolutions posting honorary signs in honor and memory of 6 fallen veterans. The City Council and the residents of Thornton wish to express our heartfelt sorrow and sympathy to the families of Larry Branagh, Bruce Bowman, Larry Harris Jr., John Simmons, Frederick Vigil, and Louis Arthur Ugal for your losses of brave and dedicated men. We would like to express our gratitude for their service and ultimate sacrifice while defending freedom and keeping all of us safe at home. Item 5A is a resolution authorizing the posting of honorary signs along Elm Place between Corona Street and Hoffman Way for Specialist 5, Bruce Bowman. Who would like to introduce this resolution? Councilmember Ziegelbaum?
Thank you, Mayor. I introduce a resolution authorizing the posting of honorary signs along Elm Place between Corona Street and Hoffman Way for Specialist 5 Bruce Bowman. Whereas Specialist 5 Bruce Bowman was a City of Thornton resident, and whereas Specialist 5 Bruce Bowman was assigned to the United States Army's 169th Engineer Battalion, C Company, 159th Engineer Group, 20th Engineer Brigade, and whereas Specialist 5 Bruce Bowman lost his life in 1971 at the age of 22 while providing service for the United States Army in Vietnam, and whereas Thornton desires to use the honorary street name designation program to honor Specialist 5 Bruce Bowman, and whereas Thornton desires to post honorary signs along Elm Place between Corona Street and Hoffman Way for Specialist 5 Bruce Bowman. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Thornton, Colorado as follows, that the City Council hereby authorizes the posting of honorary signs along Elm Place between Corona Street and Hoffman Way for Specialist 5 Bruce Bowman in honor of his military service and sacrifice to his country, and move for its approval.
Has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Council, please cast your votes. Motion passed unanimously, Your Honor.
Thank you. At this time, can I get the family to join me up here in front of the dais? Bruce graduated from Merritt Hutton High School in 1967. His sister Cindy was a sophomore in high school when Bruce was killed in Vietnam. Cindy remembers Bruce as an extremely hard worker. Bruce worked at Safeway when it was in the Thornton Shopping Center and at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal. And now I'll turn it over for the family to give some comments as well.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the mayor of Thornton and the entire council and the whole team that put this together. It's, I'd have to say, one of the biggest honors of my life. When I got the call from Bonnie Hart that they wanted to do this. Unfortunately, I'm the only one left in the family of 6, so I guess I'm the one that gets to say it's okay. Bruce was the oldest, so he was Mom's favorite, and Bonnie, who called me, she came from a family of, I think it's like a baker's dozen, and I was always her mom's favorite, so imagine that. But Bruce, I remember the night before he left for Vietnam, I was a cheerleader at Merritt Hutton. I was a freshman at the time, and I didn't want to pay the 50 cents or whatever it was to get in the gate, so I wore my cheerleading uniform in and passed it over the fence to Bruce and changed into my 501s. You know, I had to have my 501s on. So we thought we'd said our last goodbyes, but he woke me up in the morning and he said, "I'll see you, little sister." Being I was the youngest, Bruce didn't tell me some of the things he told my older sister and brother. He unfortunately always had a feeling that he wasn't going to come home. And I didn't find that out till several years later, of course. But he knew that if his next brother, they were actually Irish twins. Bruce was born in January 31st, and Bob was born December 22nd. And he knew, and Bob wasn't cut out for the Army. He's a genius and belonged in college. And he knew that if he went past basic training, he would probably go into infantry. So Bruce was going to re-enlist. The mission that Bruce was on that fatal day on March 8th, he was driving a van and he had a trailer with some of his fellow soldiers in it, and it broke loose. And he stopped immediately and ran after them, and he saved 8 lives that day. So he also was given the Soldier's Medal of Honor because he was a hero that day. He saved 8 lives. I remember my mom was very ill when Bruce left. She had a terrible hereditary disease that fortunately I didn't get, but my other brother and sister did. So he knew something was wrong with Mom, but he didn't know what. And being that he didn't think he was coming home, he always told them, if anything happens to Mom, I want to remember her the way she was when I left. And I remember my first thought, I had gone to live in Denver with my father and stepmother, and I was sitting on the edge of the coffee table in this great big house on 13th and Humboldt, and I was the only one in the living room, and I heard the doorbell ring. My father was at work, and there were 2 Army men there. So I knew right away what had happened. And I ran upstairs to alert my stepmother, and she went in the kitchen with them. And then she came out, and by that time, my 2 stepsisters had come upstairs, and she said, "I want you girls to go downstairs." And I just started crying hysterically. And then we had to call my father home from work. And when he first came in, one of the men vaguely resembled my brother, and for a split second, he thought it was my brother. Unfortunately, that wasn't the news he was expecting when he got home that night at probably about 11:30 or 12 o'clock that night. And my father never drank, but he drank that night. And we lived near Cheeseman Park, and he had a 440 Charger, and he was driving it over the lawns at Cheeseman Park, just screaming and yelling, you know, my son was a man, and he died for his country. And fortunately, my father wasn't killed that night, too. But there's so many things I could tell you about him. My parents grew up in Nebraska, and Bruce loved going to my Uncle Ralph's farm. He also died from Huntington's disease, the disease that took many of my family members. And I think if Bruce had lived, he would have been farming that farm still today, because my cousin, he wasn't a farmer, but my brother was a farmer. He would have been there taking care of Uncle Ralph's land the same way my uncle did, while battling this disease and diabetes. I want to thank you to all the vets here tonight, and my heart goes out to all of you that have lost someone, and I can't thank you enough. And again, thank you, Bonnie, for that phone call. It brought tears to my eyes, and thanks again to the mayor and all of the council. I just have one more quick little tidbit. I read a letter that my grandmother had received from my brother, and he said, I'll be home March 11th, 1971. Don't ask me what I'll be doing, I don't know. That was the day his body got to Denver. And I found a picture that he had sent. He was squatted down with the peace sign, and it said, Dear sis, study hard, stay sober. So I knew it was to me and not my older sister. And he said, keep the faith, because that's what he always said, keep the faith. Thank you all so much.
Thanks again for sharing your story. Item 5B is a resolution authorizing the posting of honorary signs along Nagel Drive between Russell Way and Dorothy Boulevard for Warrant Officer Larry Branagh. Who would like to introduce this resolution? Councilmember Goodman?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce a resolution authorizing the posting of honorary signs along Nagel Drive between Russell Way and Dorothy Boulevard for Warrant Officer Larry Branagh. Whereas Warrant Officer Larry Branagh was a City of Thornton resident, and whereas Warrant Officer Larry Branagh was assigned to the United States Army 229th Assault Helo Battalion, B Company, 11th Aviation Group, 1st Cavalry Division. And whereas Warrant Officer Larry Branagh lost his life in 1968 at the age of 24 while providing service for the United States Army in Vietnam. And whereas Thornton desires to use the honorary street name designation program to honor Warrant Officer Larry Branagh, and whereas Thornton desires to use the honorary sign option of the honorary street name designation program, and whereas Thornton desires to post honorary signs along Nagel Drive between Russell Way and Dorothy Boulevard for Warrant Officer Larry Branagh. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Thornton, Colorado as follows. That the City Council hereby authorizes the posting of honorary signs along Nagel Drive between Russell Way and Dorothy Boulevard for Warrant Officer Larry Branagh in honor of his military service and sacrifice for our country. And I move for its adoption.
Has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Please poll the council.
Council, please cast your votes. Motion passed unanimously, Your Honor.
Thank you. Larry graduated from Merritt Hutton High School in 1961. He piloted a Huey helicopter in Vietnam for 9 months. He was the recipient of many notable service medals, including 2 Silver Stars with Oak Leaf, the Distinguished Flying Cross, 3 Purple Hearts, and the Bronze Star for Valor. So at this time, I would like to ask Mr. Branagh and any family members to please join me in front of the dais.
My name is Jim Branagh, and I'll share an abbreviated overview of my brother Larry, our family, and our contribution of military service to our country. But first, I'd like to introduce my family that's here, my wife, 50 years, Arlene, our 2 sons, Matt, Preston, and in the audience is Preston's wife, Jessica, and Matt's daughter, Matea. Thank you. Most of the pictures, I don't know if they can start to roll again. I was going to speak to them. The Branagh family picture, which you're seeing there, taken in approximately 1964, Walt, Alice, Larry, Jim, Don, and Bonnie. Our family residence was 9411 Nagel Drive. And excuse me for reading this, but I'd never get through it if I didn't. The next picture is 3 young brothers taken in approximately 1953. That's Don, Jim, myself in the middle, and Larry. We were all redheads at that time. Merritt Hutton High School at the time was the only high school in District 12. All 3 brothers attended and graduated through the original Thornton Elementary, Junior and Senior High Merritt Hutton High School, now known as Thornton High School. Larry in the class of 1961, myself, class of 1963, Don, class of 1965. We were approximately 18 months apart in age. Larry played football, number 52, on the original Thornton 5-star stadium football field, when it was actually a 1-star at that time. Larry's senior year, Thornton was the league champions. Larry was on the Thornton wrestling team. In the picture, he's pictured at the jack at 145 weight. The team that year went undefeated in league and tournament matches. Larry's senior year, 1961, with his high school year achievements, he was a 4-year letterman in wrestling, 3 years in football, 2 years in track. He was a Gold Key Award winner in art and other awards as shown. It's too fine a print above his head to see, but there was numerous other notations that he had. Next picture is the last. Next picture is the last picture. The 3. Excuse me. Last picture of the 3 brothers together before volunteering for military service. All 3 of us served in uniform at the same time during the Vietnam War. Larry's on the left, he was in the Army, myself in the middle, Coast Guard, and Don in the Army. Larry in his warrant officer dress uniform when he was awarded his pilot wings. As mentioned before, the information about Larry's unit, location on the Vietnam Wall, and the medals and awards that he received is indicated there. He is a recipient of 2 Silver Star with Oak Leaf Cluster, meaning that he was awarded 2 Silver Stars. He was also awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Bronze Star Medal with V for Valor, 3 Purple Hearts, 1 posthumously, the Air Medal with the number 26, and I'm not sure what that really means, but it's included in his awards, Expert Badge with Pistol Bar, and several other service medals. Larry was in the field, Larry in the field being awarded his 2nd Purple Heart. Picture prior to that, you could see the Purple Heart had just been pinned on him for wounds that he had received in battle. That picture is Larry walking around the helicopter base camp somewhere in Vietnam. Next picture is Larry left front with the red hair, and then some of his fellow pilots somewhere in Vietnam. The next site is Larry had been in country for 9 months, a little over 9 months. Is the crash site of the helicopter that he was flying at the time. After taking enemy fire, Larry managed to get his helicopter to the ground. Shortly thereafter, he took off his armor vest to help evacuate the rest of the crew, and shortly thereafter took machine gun fire to the chest, causing the mortal wounds that he died from. Larry's tombstone at Fort Logan National Cemetery. Larry always gave 110%. Next picture is my 50-year salute. 50 years ago, July 1967, Larry was being deployed to Vietnam, passing through Oakland, California, and my ship had just returned from the Bering Sea Patrol. I had duty and could not leave the ship, and Larry came on board the United States Coast Guard cutter Dexter that I was assigned to. We visited for a while. Then as he left the ship, we saluted each other as he departed. That was the last time I saw Larry alive. This past July, I was at the Vietnam Wall in D.C., and the picture is me returning a salute 50 years later. Larry's name appears in the reflection just off the bill of my hat on that wall. Next picture, it's been up there, I guess. Thornton Veterans Memorial, designed, fundraiser funded, and completed by the Thornton Veterans Memorial Foundation volunteers. It was a work of love that took over 10 years to complete. You can still order brick pavers to honor your service, that of a loved one, a veteran, living or deceased. You can order those pavers through the Thornton website. In conclusion, our family time of service, I must mention a few words about Don, my other brother that was in the pictures. He joined the Army in 1966. Following boot camp, he was sent directly to Germany. In 1967, he returned to Fitzsimmons Army Hospital, 70% disabled. He spent 29 years in VA hospitals and homes before he passed away in 1996 at the age of 49. I believe Larry was the first veteran from Thornton to be killed in action. It is for these reasons, Larry and Don, that Charlene and I have spent over 10 years involved with a passion to see the Thornton Veterans Memorial through completion. Tonight, I salute all of the Thornton veterans fallen and their families for their sacrifice. Thanks to the City of Thornton for doing a special recognition this evening, and especially for reaching back 50 years in history to remember all of Thornton's first fallen heroes. That's an abbreviated story. I'd love to share any of it with all of you at some time. I appreciate the time to share this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. Item 5C is a resolution authorizing the posting of honorary signs along East 94th Drive between 94th Avenue and Garfield Street for Corporal Laris Harris, Jr. Councilmember Siegelbaum has indicated he wants to introduce this resolution.
Thank you, Mayor. I introduce a resolution authorizing the posting of honorary signs along East 94th Drive between 94th Avenue and Garfield Street for Corporal Larry Harris, Jr. Whereas Corporal Larry Harris, Jr. was a City of Thornton resident, and whereas Corporal Harris, Jr. was assigned to the United States Marines 1st Marine Regiment, 3rd Battalion, and whereas Corporal Harris, Jr. lost his life in 2010 at the age of 24 while providing service for the United States Marine Corps in Afghanistan, and whereas Thornton desires to use the honorary street name designation program to honor Corporal Larry Harris, Jr., and whereas Thornton desires to use the honorary sign option of honorary street name designation program, and whereas Thornton desires to post honorary signs along East 94th Drive between 94th Avenue and Garfield Street for Corporal Harris, Jr. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of City of Thornton, Colorado as follows, that the City Council hereby authorizes the posting of honorary signs along East 94th Drive between 94th Avenue and Garfield Street for Corporal Larry Harris, Jr. in honor of his military service and sacrifice for country, and move for its adoption.
Has been moved in second. Is there any discussion? Please poll the council.
Council, please cast your votes. Motion to pass unanimously, Your Honor.
Thank you. Larry moved to Colorado when he was 9 and grew up on East 94th Drive. His mother, Laura Merriweather, remembers him as being outgoing and, being the oldest, always felt responsible for his younger brother, Kyle. He received a Silver Star posthumously, which is the third highest military combat decoration given to those who show bravery in battle. In May 2016, an obstacle course at Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton was renamed after Corporal Harris. At this time, I would like to invite the family up to say a few words.
Hello, my name is Laura Merriweather, and I'm Larry's mother. I would like to thank the mayor and the council for this honorary ceremony. And they've said a lot about Larry and his accomplishments in the military. From a personal perspective, I'll be short so that others can share a little bit about Larry and their experience with him. He loved God and he loved his country. And one of the last memories I have of him, he and I were standing in the living room at home, And I asked him before he was deployed, what was your biggest fear? And he said that he wouldn't come back. So he knew that he would do everything in his power to save people in his company. He gave his life for that. I appreciate the fact that time is set aside to honor those who've lost their lives in war. Thank you for the families for the sacrifice that you've made as your family members go off to war. Some come back, some don't. But it's a journey. We learn to live with it. As we have a circle of friends around us to help us get through that, it's helpful. It makes the burden a little lighter. So I appreciate the time that you all have spent putting this program together. But I want to give his dad a chance to speak along with his aunt and his uncle. Thank you.
Good evening to you all. Out of place we may feel in this world of woe, with disorder and chaos on the rise at our doors. So much sickness and pain in this walk of life. We hardly have time to wipe the tears from our eyes. To this great city, its mayor, its staff, I thank you from the depths of my heart for what you have done. I'm certain that there are other cities doing a similar thing, but this city will always be special in our hearts because the spirit of love is in this city. The spirit of peace is in this city, and we strive together for that peace. I would almost ask you, can I get an amen? But I know I'm not at church. But I will say this as well. God blessed us with our children, and we only have them for a little while. Sometimes we grow a little numb, and sometimes the numbness goes away. But I'm certain in my heart as I stand here today, we have called on the Master to help us each and every day.
Good evening. My name is Yvonne Sims, and I am the oldest sister of Larry's mother, Laura. And to our mayor and the council, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to experience such an honorary occasion. I'm sorry, I lost the words. But just thinking about Larry and thinking about his personality and how he loved his family, he was so he was an honorable nephew, and we loved him, and we could always count on Larry to take care of us whenever we were around. He respected us. He was respectful to everyone. I don't know if there were any enemies that he would have had here at home. We're just so grateful for his service that he provided for our country and just being who he was. When he, on that day in July, when we received the news, we were in Louisiana, and it was so devastating. I never forget that moment. But I just always remember what Larry, his last words to me were, we shared the same birthday month. And so whenever I told him I was 40, and he goes, Auntie Voice, 40 is just a new 20. That just really, really made my day, and I continue to remember those words. And whenever he would come home, he would always find a way to come and visit us and enjoy a dinner, invite everybody over for dinner. We would enjoy dinner at his mom's or at our house. It was just really, he was just a really loving nephew and just honorable. And I can't say enough about him, but I want to thank everyone for doing this for him, and we will never forget him, and we will always cherish what he did for our country. Thank you.
To the Honorable Mayor, to Councilman, also to you, that it take to make up this gathering. I want to share with you a quote that would be fitting for my nephew Larry. Say, greater love have no man than this, than a man lay down his life for his friend. Larry laid down his life for his friends. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that story. Item 5D is a resolution authorizing the posting of honorary signs along West 81st Place between Conifer Road and Sherman Street for private first-class John Simmons. Councilmember Phillips, would you like to introduce this resolution?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce a resolution authorizing the posting of honorary signs along West 81st Place between Conifer Road and Sherman Street for private first-class John Simmons. Whereas private first-class John Simmons was a City of Thornton resident, and whereas PFC John Simmons was assigned to the United States Army's 26th Engineer Battalion, B Company, Miracle Division, and whereas PFC John Simmons lost his life in 1971 at the age of 19 while providing service for the United States Army in Vietnam. And whereas Thornton desires to use the honorary street name designation program to honor PFC John Simmons, and whereas Thornton desires to use the honorary sign option of the honorary street name designation program, and whereas Thornton desires to post honorary signs along West 81st Place between Conifer Road and Sherman Street for private first-class John Simmons, now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Thornton, Colorado as follows: that the City Council hereby authorizes the posting of honorary signs along West 81st Place between Conifer Road and Sherman Street for private first-class John Simmons in honor of his military service and his sacrifice for the country. I move for its immediate approval.
Has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Council, please cast your votes. Motion passed unanimously, Your Honor.
Thank you. John graduated from Merritt Hutton High School in 1969 and was the middle of 5 boys. His brother Steve said John took a second tour so Steve didn't have to go to Vietnam. Steve said they couldn't force brothers to go at the same time. Steve was the last family member to see John alive. So at this time, can I ask the family members to please come up and say a few words?
Thank you very much. I want to thank the City of Thornton for this honor. Sorry. As you can see, we are a family of military. My dad was in the Army. He was in Second World War, and he was in Korea. My brother, David, he's the youngest. He was in the Air Force, retired. My brother, Jerry, was in the Navy. He's was spent 12 years, 10 years. And I was in the Army for 3 years. Then I have my nephew here, and he just got out after house. I know it's a great honor that is being bestowed upon the family, and I just want to thank the council for that.
Paul is not here, but he tried to do his duty as well. We all felt very strong about serving in the military at this time because it was just a given almost in the situation that the company and the U.S. was in. I enjoyed my time in the military, and I'm sure every one of us had good and bad times as well. John was quite a man. He was always picked on when he was younger, but he turned out to be a heck of a guy. And he was on his second tour into Vietnam when he was killed. So that tells you the earnesty that he felt when he left for a second time. Thank you very much.
The one thing I can say about my brother is that when on the day that he died on Mother's Day, and my mother knew it before she got notified. So, you know, just him serving his 2 tours in Vietnam, and you know how we've gone through this. It's just, you know, we give John the praise. We also give God the praise for who he is.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. Item 5E is a resolution authorizing the posting of honorary signs along Hoyt Drive between Lily Drive and Clayton Street for Sergeant Frederick Vigil. Councilmember Vigil, would you like to introduce this resolution?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I introduce a resolution authorizing the posting of honorary signs along Hoyt Drive between Lily Drive and Clayton Street for Sergeant Frederick Vigil. Whereas Sergeant Frederick Vigil was a City of Thornton resident, and whereas Sergeant Frederick Vigil was assigned to the United States Army's 3rd Squadron, D Troop, 4th Cavalry, 25th Infantry Division, and whereas Sergeant Frederick Vigil lost his life in 1971 at the age of 21 while providing service for the United States Army in Vietnam, and whereas Thornton desires to use the honorary street name designation program to honor Sergeant Frederick Vigil, and whereas Thornton desires to use the honorary sign option of the honorary street name designation program, and whereas Thornton desires to post honorary signs along Hoyt Drive between Lily Drive and Clayton Street for Sergeant Frederick Vigil. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Thornton, Colorado as follows: that the City Council hereby authorizes the posting of honorary signs along Hoyt Drive between Lily Drive and Clayton Street for Sergeant Frederick Vigil in honor of his military service and his sacrifice for the country, and ask for its immediate approval.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Council, please cast your votes. Motion passed unanimously, Your Honor.
Thank you. Frederick, or Freddie, graduated from Mapleton High School in 1969. His sister Debbie and mother Esther laughed while reminiscing about his prized possession, Fred's 69. The 1969 Camaro that was once stolen from the grocery store and left on blocks is still in the family. His sister stated that Freddie didn't have to be drafted because he was an only son. So at this time, I'd like to invite the family up to say a few words.
Hello. Oops. My name is Debbie Bonnets, and I'm Freddie's sister. And it's so nice to see everybody here tonight, especially since it's been so long, too long. A lot of people here have somehow, some way, sometime been touched by Fred. Look at this day. He was so open and personable to everybody he met, strangers, animals, whomever, even me, his sister sometimes. His name is everywhere. CU campus in Boulder, Aurora, Washington, D.C., Angel Fire, New Mexico, and every memorial in the United States and abroad. And now here we are, 46 years later, and we're going to see his name yet again. God bless. But I especially wish he was here, right now, so Mom and I could touch him one more time, and to meet my wonderful family. My husband, Paul, who has the strength to keep us all together, my sensitive, smart, successful son, Christopher, my get-to-the-point daughter, Freddie, there's his name again, who keeps us all on the up and up, also her wonderful man, Matt, who, bless his heart, has the patience and love for all of us. I just so wish they could have met him, just for an instant. And no, I didn't forget how he used to tease me, especially when his friends were around, how he used to hang all my dolls, big and little, by their necks from the tree in the backyard, then charge a penny for everyone to come and see them. Or put together a tunnel of big boxes in the yard to crawl through, and here comes that penny charge again. Then when we were older, how we became friends, and then best friends, double dating, still picking on me though, letting me hang with and meet his friends, and him meeting mine. And then borrowing our folks' blue Volkswagen Bug to take us up and down Welby Hills when they were actually hills. So many times we lost count. My dad always wondered how the car got so dirty. I think he knew. Everybody had that ride. Then I remember him and his friend Danny Kasika wanting to join the Army. Our dad had been a soldier, and all of his brothers too. Fred wanted to do his duty. He didn't have to go. He was an only son. He could have stayed here. Then he was all excited, couldn't wait, nervous, kind of scared, not knowing, and then he was gone. Looking real fine in his uniform, off to war, and he was only 19. He came home only once more after that. In the meantime, he had made big plans. When he was finished with all of it, he was going to get married, settle down, and start living his life. But it wasn't meant to be. God had other plans. He was only 21. Now here we are today, seeing his name yet again. He's like a sparkler that never goes out completely, but flares up once in a while to remind us that he is still around and watches over all of us. Thank you to everybody here tonight and to the ones that wanted to be but couldn't. Thank you, Councilman Val Hill, and to Bonnie Allen and to Mayor Heidi Williams for recognizing and honoring Thornton's fallen soldiers and bringing this to fruition. Thank you to everybody from the city to the sign makers for all their work. I love you, brother. I miss you every day and then some. You'll always be my hero. Thank you.
just say a couple of words.
Councilmember Vihil.
Thank you, Mayor. I know that my time to speak was passed a little while ago, but I just wanted to kind of make just a comment on Freddie. There is in the audience is one of his best friends, Bob Scott, who was sitting up in here. He grew up with Freddie, and by the way, he's my cousin. And another good friend of mine, Dave Lucero, who happened to be my daughter's middle school teacher, knew him very well. They were all three of them were a pack, I guess, very friendly. And I was asked by Councilmember Ziegelbaum a little while ago, is there any relations? And I says, probably short-tailed relations, yes. And if I start digging, a V-hill is always going to be a V-hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember, and thank you to the Vihil family for sharing your story with us. And finally, we have item 5F, which is a resolution authorizing the posting of honorary signs along Lily Drive between Hoffman Way and Hoyt Drive for Specialist 4 Lewis Arthur Ugel. Who would like to introduce this resolution? Councilmember Matkowski.
I'd like to introduce a resolution authorizing the posting of honorary signs along Lily Drive between Hoffman Way and Hoyt Drive for Specialist 4 Lewis Arthur Ugel. Whereas Specialist 4 Lewis Arthur Uger was a City of Thornton resident, and whereas SP4 Lewis Arthur Ugel was assigned to the United States Army's 2nd Battalion, B Company, 503rd Infantry, 173rd Airborne Brigade, and whereas SP4 Lewis Arthur Ugel lost his life in 1971 at the age of 19 while providing service for the United States Army in Vietnam, and whereas Thornton desires to use the honorary street name designation program to honor SP4 Lewis Arthur Ugel, and whereas Thornton desires to use the honorary sign option of the honorary street name designation program, and whereas Thornton desires to post honorary signs along Lily Drive between Hoffman Way and Hoyt Drive for SP4 Lewis Arthur Ugel. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City of Thornton by the City Council of the City of Thornton, Colorado as follows: that the city hereby authorizes the posting of honorary signs along Lily Drive between Hoffman Way and Hoyt Drive for Specialist 4 Lewis Arthur Ugel in honor of his military service and his sacrifice for this country. And I ask for its immediate approval.
Has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Please poll the council.
Council, please cast your votes. Motion passed unanimously, Your Honor.
Thank you. Lewis Arthur loved growing up in Thornton. His brother Stephen recalls Arthur driving around the new city of 10,000 in his 57 Chevy, and that one place for certain you could find that 57 was at Pizza Roma. Arthur enlisted in the Army before he graduated high school. So at this time, I would like to invite the family up to say a few words.
Well, on behalf of our mother, who cannot be here, and our brother Joe, who also is unable to be here. You know, Mama's 90 years old. That's just an aside. But they can't be here. We want to thank the City Council, the mayor, for this honoring of our brother, and we are honored by what you're doing. And then there's one other thing before I just get started. If you go to Lily Drive and Hoyt, the V-Hill and Ugel signs will be on that corner. Of course, there goes a corner there, but that's just an aside that how it worked out. I'm, Arthur is who he went by, Lewis, you know. That was his first name, but he went by Arthur. And he was my twin brother. And he went off to the Army, and, well, we know the rest. But the thing about it is that Arthur loved the Army. He absolutely loved it. And it was the greatest thing that he believed had ever happened to him. He wanted to be a paratrooper, and he joined, and he just absolutely loved being in the Army. And we, you know, there's a lot of things that I could tell you about him. We were competitive enough, but we were different, you know, in our demeanors and things. But it was in scouting, and we went to Holy Cross School, so you know that those things, he just. As far as a brother, I just have fond memories of him, which is, you know, anymore as, you know, as I grow older. But anyhow, I want to thanks again for everybody, and we just want to thank you. This is my brother, Steve.
Yes, I'd like to thank Mayor Williams, the City Council, and the citizens of Thornton. My name is Steve Ugal, and I was the brother of Lewis Arthur Ugal, known to his family and friends as just Arthur. My brother and sisters and me, we enjoyed and loved growing up in Thornton. Then Thornton was only a community of 10,000 people. When a community loses one of its sons in service to our country, we all feel it, and we always remember them. I want to thank the Mayor Williams, City Council, and the people of Thornton for remembering its son and honoring my brother, Lewis Arthur Ugal. Thank you.
Thank you to the Ugal family for talking to us. And I have somebody's notebook here. Sorry, it's yours. I'll pass it down and we'll get it up there to you. Sorry about that. Well, thank you to all the families for allowing us to honor these 6 men publicly in this way and to share a small part of their heroic stories through the honorary signs. Immediately following this presentation, family and friends are welcome to visit the sites, and we'll see that the honorary signs have been unveiled and reflect the actions Council has taken here tonight. Thank you again so much for serving our country.